American people are going to have to choose between the Bill of Rights and the Thomas Committee. They cannot have both. One or the other must be abolished in the immediate future.
In the 1940s, Will Geer immediately stopped getting work. He had no acting or singing projects, and nobody knew what had happened. He was not the only one. Over the years, Hollywood has blacklisted many talented actors, singers, and musicians. There was always a reason, either good or bad, for their disappearance. Today, we are going to talk about Hollywood celebrities who were once in the limelight, but were, in the next moment, immediately gone. Dalton Trumbo. Dalton Trumbo was a brilliant screenwriter whose clever storytelling and creative writing style made him a standout in Hollywood's golden age. His scripts brought complex characters and gripping narratives to life, and he quickly earned a reputation as one of the most talented writers of his time. However, the political climate of the 1950s was marked by fear and suspicion, especially regarding the spread of communism. During this turbulent period, many in the film industry were scrutinized for their political beliefs, and Dalton Trumbo became one of those targets. Accused of supporting communism based solely on his left-leaning views and associations, Trumbo was blacklisted, meaning he was officially barred from working in the industry. Despite the lack of solid evidence against him, the accusation alone was enough to tarnish his career. Faced with the harsh reality of the blacklist, Dalton did not let the setback silence him. Instead, he continued to write, cleverly using fake names to keep his work in circulation. Over time, his talent could not be hidden, and he eventually earned recognition, winning prestigious awards for his work. Trumbo's story is a powerful reminder of how fear can hinder creativity, yet true talent finds a way to shine through adversity. John Howard Lawson. John was one of the original Hollywood 10, a group of creative minds who were suddenly caught up in a wave of fear and suspicion. Back in the day, Hollywood was a place of great ideas and exciting films, but it was also a time when political ideas were harshly judged. John was a passionate writer, pouring his heart into his work. His stories and scripts were filled with creativity, and he loved every moment of his craft. Then, without much warning, rumors started spreading about his political beliefs. Accusations of being a communist began to fly around, and suddenly, John was labeled as a dangerous influence. People claimed he was supporting ideas that were seen as a threat, even though there was little solid evidence against him. This label led to him being blacklisted, a decision that meant he could no longer work in the film industry. His career was a big hit almost overnight, and many of his friends and colleagues believed he was simply caught in a political witch hunt. They saw John as a talented artist who became a victim of fear. His story reminds us how powerful and damaging unchecked suspicion can be, even to those who only seek to share their creativity with the world. Ring Lardner Jr. Ring Lardner Jr. was a gifted writer whose talent shone brightly in Hollywood's golden era. He crafted scripts with wit, humor, and a unique style that won the admiration of many. However, during the height of the anti-communist frenzy, even the smallest hint of leftist ties could lead to severe consequences. Ring found himself caught in this political storm. Accusations began to surface that he had connections with leftist groups, and soon his name was added to the notorious blacklist. This label wasn't about his work. It was about fear. In a time when suspicion ruled the industry, being blacklisted meant that Ring was effectively barred from finding work. Despite his undeniable skill, the political label made it incredibly difficult for him to secure projects. Many of his peers saw this as a clear example of a system that punished creative minds for their ideas, not their actions. Even in the face of this injustice, Ring's passion for writing did not fade. He continued to work in secret and under pseudonyms, determined to keep his creative spirit alive. His story serves as a reminder of the power of resilience and the high cost of fear-driven politics, showing that true talent endures even in the toughest times. Lester Cole. Lester was a proud member of the Hollywood 10, a group of creative artists whose careers were suddenly thrown into turmoil during a time of political fear. Lester was known for his honest writing and deep passion for storytelling. But when the anti-communist hysteria swept through Hollywood, even a hint of leftist beliefs was enough to ruin reputations. Accusations started to fly, and Lester found himself being labeled as a communist sympathizer. This label wasn't based on clear facts, but rather on the era's climate of suspicion and fear. Because of these claims, many producers and studios decided to cut ties with him, and he was banned from working on numerous Hollywood projects. It wasn't that Lester had done anything wrong. It was simply that his political ideas, or even the perception of them, made the powerful figures in the industry nervous. His creative contributions were ignored, and his career took a heavy blow. Yet, Lester's story reminds us that even in the darkest times, the truth about talent and hard work can't be completely erased. His experience is a powerful example of how fear can lead to injustice, and it serves as a reminder that creativity should never be stifled by baseless accusations. Dmytryk. Dmytryk was a talented director whose career took a wild turn during a very tense period in Hollywood. At first, he was blacklisted simply because of his suspected political beliefs. In those days, even a hint of left-leaning ideas could label someone as dangerous, and Edward found himself suddenly cut off from work and opportunities. His passion for directing was overshadowed by the fear and suspicion that gripped the industry. Things got even more complicated when government committees started investigating Hollywood for ties to communism. Facing intense pressure and a looming threat of permanent exclusion, Edward made a tough decision. He chose to cooperate with the government, agreeing to provide information and testify about others in the industry. This move, though painful, allowed him to slowly return to work and regain some of the lost ground in his career. However, the shadow of those early accusations never completely left him. Even after his comeback, the stigma of being blacklisted affected how people saw him and his work. Edward's story is a powerful reminder of how fear can force even the most gifted individuals into making impossible choices, leaving a mark on their lives and careers that lasts for years. Herbert Biberman. Herbert Biberman was a director who wasn't afraid to tackle tough social issues on the big screen. He made movies that explored topics like injustice and inequality, hoping to shine a light on problems that many preferred to ignore. But during a time when fear ruled Hollywood, even honest opinions could be dangerous. Herbert's work and his personal beliefs led to accusations that he was a communist, a label that carried a heavy weight back then. The accusations quickly turned into a full-blown career setback. Because of these claims, Herbert was blacklisted. Studios and producers stopped hiring him, and his projects were suddenly canceled. It wasn't that there was hard evidence against him. It was the paranoia of the era that made even creative voices like his a target. Despite his talent and passion for storytelling, the stigma of being labeled a communist stuck with him. Herbert's career never fully recovered from that period of fear and suspicion. His story serves as a powerful reminder of how political hysteria can derail lives, even those dedicated to making meaningful art. If you're interested in more stories from Hollywood's turbulent past, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into film history. Albert Maltz. Albert Maltz was a talented screenwriter whose creative spirit shone brightly in Hollywood. He loved writing stories that captured the imagination and emotions of audiences. However, during a time when fear ruled the industry, his political views came under heavy scrutiny. Critics and officials began to question his beliefs, accusing him of having communist sympathies, a dangerous label in those days. These accusations quickly turned into a career-altering blow. Suddenly, Albert found himself facing harsh allegations that were more about politics than his actual work. The intense suspicion and paranoia of the era forced him out of Hollywood. This wasn't because his writing wasn't good. He had real talent. but because the political climate was so charged that even a hint of left-leaning views could ruin your career. Being labeled a communist led to widespread controversy. Studios and producers, driven by fear, were unwilling to take the risk of hiring him. This meant that many promising projects evaporated overnight, and Albert's future in the film industry looked bleak. His story is a powerful reminder of how the politics of fear can disrupt even the most promising careers. If you find these historical twists as fascinating as I do, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into Hollywood's past. Samuel Ornitz. Samuel Ornitz was a gifted screenwriter who loved crafting engaging stories for Hollywood films. His creative ideas and knack for storytelling made him a respected figure behind the scenes. But during a time when fear and suspicion ran high, having even slightly unconventional political ideas could lead to trouble. In an era marked by intense paranoia about political beliefs, Samuel was accused of having leftist ideas. This accusation wasn't based on solid proof, but on the charged atmosphere of the time. Once these suspicions surfaced, his name became linked with dangerous political notions. In Hollywood, where reputation was everything, this label hit him hard. Being blacklisted meant that studios and producers were unwilling to hire him. Despite his clear talent and the quality of his scripts, Samuel suddenly found himself cut off from many work opportunities. Promising projects disappeared almost overnight, leaving him without the chance to work on films he was passionate about. Samuel's experience is a clear example of how quickly fear and suspicion could upend a promising career, even for someone as talented as he was. Adrien Scott. Adrien was a talented writer and one of the Hollywood 10. His journey took a hard turn during a time when fear and suspicion were everywhere in Hollywood. In those days, any hint of leftist ideas could be used as a reason to ruin a career. Unfortunately, Adrien found himself accused of supporting communism. These claims weren't based on solid evidence, but on a climate of political paranoia that swept through the industry. Once his name was linked to such dangerous ideas, everything changed for him. The powerful studios and influential producers began to avoid him, and soon enough, the word blacklisted was attached to his name. Being blacklisted meant that no one wanted to work with him, no matter how brilliant his writing was. Doors that had once opened easily were now slammed shut, leaving Adrien with few opportunities to work on the films he loved. The intense political pressure of that era made it nearly impossible for him to continue his career in Hollywood. Despite the challenges, Adrien's story stands out as a stark example of how quickly a creative career could be derailed by accusations in an atmosphere of fear. Alvah Bessie. Alvah was a dedicated writer in Hollywood known for his creative storytelling. He poured his heart into every script and always aimed to bring fresh ideas to the screen. But during the turbulent times when fear of communism was rampant, just a hint of leftist views could cause a major setback. Alvah's work and beliefs caught the attention of those driven by political paranoia, and soon enough, he was labeled a communist sympathizer. This label was enough to get him blacklisted, a decision that meant studios and producers stopped working with him. Opportunities that had once been open to a talented writer like Alvah were suddenly closed off. Despite his clear talent and passion for writing, the fear that gripped Hollywood overruled his creative contributions. Alvah's experience shows just how powerful political fear could be in ruining careers during that era. His story is a stark reminder that even genuine talent can be overshadowed by the intense political pressures of the time. Jericho. Paul Jericho was not only a skilled screenwriter, but also a dedicated producer who loved the art of storytelling. In his early days, he helped create memorable films that captivated audiences. However, during a time when fear and suspicion ran high in Hollywood, everything changed for him. Accusations emerged that he had ties to communism, an allegation that quickly spread and took on a life of its own. These claims led to his name being blacklisted. In other words, Paul was officially banned from working on major projects in the industry he loved. This blacklist wasn't about proving any wrongdoing. It was simply about political paranoia. Suddenly, despite his undeniable talent and years of hard work, Paul found himself shut out from the opportunities he once enjoyed. The film studios, under pressure to appear tough on political dissent, no longer wanted to associate with him. The impact on Paul's career was profound. The projects he had poured his heart into were no longer available, and he had to struggle to find ways to continue his creative work. His story is a clear reminder of how dangerous political hysteria can be. It shows that even someone with great talent and passion can suffer when fear overrides fairness and reason. Jack Guilford. Jack Guilford was a standout actor known for his unique and funny style that made him a favorite among audiences. His performances were full of energy and humor, and he had a natural ability to bring characters to life on screen. However, during a time of extreme political fear in Hollywood, even a hint of unconventional political beliefs could lead to serious trouble. Jack's honest opinions and the way he expressed his views led to accusations that he was a communist sympathizer. In an era when the entertainment industry was gripped by the anti-communist frenzy, these allegations had severe consequences. Jack's name ended up on the blacklist, meaning that studios and producers started to avoid hiring him. Suddenly, his once thriving career came to a halt. For years, Jack struggled to find work. His reputation as a talented and funny actor was overshadowed by the political label that had been unfairly attached to him. It took a long time for the tide to turn, and Jack had to patiently rebuild his career and reputation in Hollywood. His story serves as a reminder of how political hysteria can ruin lives and careers, even for those with great talent and a genuine passion for their craft. Michael Wilson. Michael was a gifted screenwriter with a real talent for creating engaging stories and memorable dialogue. He had a natural way with words, crafting scripts that could make people laugh, cry, or sit in awe. But then came a time in Hollywood when fear took over and left little room for artistic freedom. During this period, the anti-communist backlash was at its peak, and any hint of left-leaning ideas was met with harsh accusations. Michael's name became linked to these suspicions. Even though there was no clear evidence against him, his alleged involvement with leftist ideas led to him being blacklisted. This meant that studios and producers, scared of any political repercussions, stopped inviting him to work on new projects. Despite his strong writing skills and creative spirit, Michael found himself shut out of an industry that once celebrated his talent. It was a tough time for him, as his career stalled and opportunities dwindled. His story is a reminder that even the most brilliant artists can fall victim to a climate of fear and suspicion. In Michael's case, his creative gifts were not enough to shield him from the sweeping political tides that defined that era. Zero Mostel. Zero Mostel is best remembered for his bold, energetic performances that captivated audiences and left a lasting mark on stage and screen. From the very beginning of his career, Zero was never one to hold back. His lively presence and outspoken nature made him a standout talent. However, his fearless expression of his political views soon caught the attention of powerful critics in Hollywood. In a time when many were cautious about their opinions, Zero's strong and clear stance led to severe backlash. His views, though honest and deeply held, were seen as too radical by some, and he was accused of having communist sympathies. This accusation resulted in him being blacklisted, a harsh punishment that meant studios and theaters were reluctant to offer him work. Despite his undeniable talent and the joy he brought to audiences, Zero faced a period marked by intense scrutiny and limited opportunities. Even though these early years were filled with challenges and uncertainty, Zero's spirit never wavered. Over time, he managed to break free from the blacklist, and his later work earned him the celebration and respect he deserved. His journey is a powerful reminder that standing by your beliefs can come with a cost, but true talent eventually shines through adversity. Will Geer. Will Geer was a well-loved character actor who lit up every screen with his warm and inviting presence. He wasn't just a talented performer. He was also deeply involved in his community and passionate about social causes. Will believed in standing up for what he thought was right. He supported progressive ideas and was active in political movements, always speaking out for justice and equality. However, during a time when fear and suspicion ruled Hollywood, being outspoken about progressive causes could be risky. Will's open political activities and his support for ideas that challenged the status quo quickly caught the attention of those in power. Soon, he was labeled a communist, a charge that was more about politics than any real evidence against him. This accusation was a heavy blow. Because of it, Will found himself blacklisted, meaning that studios and casting directors were reluctant to hire him for roles he once played with such charm. This period was a tough one for Will. Despite his undeniable talent and his warm screen presence, the blacklist made it incredibly difficult for him to get work. Yet, his story reminds us of the cost of standing by one's beliefs. Even in dark times, Will Geer's legacy shines as a symbol of courage and integrity in the face of overwhelming political pressure.